For more than 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has been the most studied building on Earth. It has been measured, mapped, tunneled into, and picked apart by every generation of explorers who thought they finally understood it. And then, in 2017, a team of physicists pointed a stream of invisible particles from outer space through its stone and found something nobody knew was there. A huge empty space hidden deep inside that no human being has entered in 4,500 years. To understand why that discovery shook people, you have to understand how thoroughly this pyramid has already been explored. It was built around 2,560 years before the Common Era, for the pharaoh Khufu. It stands on the Giza Plateau just outside modern Cairo, and for thousands of years it was the tallest structure ever made by human hands. It is built from an estimated 2.3 million blocks of stone, some weighing as much as 15 tons, stacked with a precision that still makes modern engineers uncomfortable. Inside, we thought we had the full map. There is a descending corridor that runs down into the bedrock. There is an ascending corridor that climbs upward. There is the Grand Gallery, a towering sloped hallway with a corbelled ceiling. There is the King's Chamber, built from massive granite blocks, and below it, the Queen's Chamber. For centuries, that was the accepted layout. 3 chambers, a few corridors, and solid stone everywhere else. The last major internal structure discovered inside the Great Pyramid was found back in the 19th century. After that, everyone assumed there was nothing left to find. They were wrong. In 2015, a project called Scan Pyramids began. It was an international mission, bringing together researchers from Egypt, France, and Japan, and its goal was simple but radical. They wanted to look inside the pyramid without touching it. No drilling, no breaking through walls. Instead, they would use particle physics. The technique is called muon tomography, and it sounds like science fiction, but it is real and well understood. Muons are subatomic particles created when cosmic rays from deep space slam into the Earth's upper atmosphere. They rain down on the entire surface of the planet constantly, passing through your body, through the ground, and through solid rock. But here is the key. Muons are absorbed more easily by dense material like stone, and they pass more freely through empty space. So, if you place muon detectors inside a structure and carefully count how many particles arrive from each direction, the empty spaces show up as areas where more muons made it through. In effect, you can build an image of the inside of a solid object using nothing but particles from outer space. The team placed their detectors inside the Queen's Chamber and aimed them upward, and what came back stopped them cold. Above the Grand Gallery, hidden inside what everyone had assumed was solid stone, the muons revealed a massive empty space. It was at least 30 meters long, roughly 100 feet, with a cross-section similar to the Grand Gallery itself. It sat about 21 meters above the floor of the King's Chamber. They named it the Big Void. Now, a cautious scientist announces something like this carefully, because a single measurement can be a fluke. So the team did not rely on one method. The Big Void was first detected using nuclear emulsion films from a team at Nagoya University. Then it was confirmed independently by a second Japanese team from the KEK Institute using a completely different type of detector. Then it was reconfirmed a third time using gas detectors positioned outside the pyramid. 3 different technologies, 3 independent analyses, all pointing at the same empty space. When the results were published in the journal Nature in 2017, they described it as the first major inner structure found in the Great Pyramid since the 19th century. So there is no serious doubt that the void is real. The mystery is not whether it exists. The mystery is what it is and why it is there. And this is where the debate splits, because there is a careful, mainstream answer, and there is a much stranger set of possibilities that the careful answer cannot fully rule out. The mainstream explanation is deflationary, and it deserves a fair hearing. Many Egyptologists point out that the inside of the Great Pyramid is not the solid, perfect block that people imagine. It is far more irregular. There are gaps, rubble zones, and construction cavities scattered throughout the structure. The builders left spaces for practical reasons. One leading idea is that the big void is a construction feature, specifically a relieving space. The enormous weight of the pyramid pressing down on the grand gallery below would need to be redirected, and an empty gap above it could serve exactly that structural purpose, spreading the load so the gallery beneath does not collapse. In this reading, the void is not a secret room at all. It is engineering. Impressive engineering, but not a mystery chamber. That explanation is reasonable, and it might be correct. But it does not close the case, for a few reasons. First, the sheer size. 100 feet is enormous for a simple stress relief gap. The known relieving chambers above the king's chamber are real, and they do exist to manage weight. But they look like what they are: low, cramped spaces. The big void is on a completely different scale, comparable to the Grand Gallery itself, one of the most dramatic interior spaces ever built in the ancient world. Second, we genuinely do not know its exact shape or orientation yet. Early results suggested it might be horizontal, or it might be inclined like the Grand Gallery beneath it. Until its precise geometry is mapped, calling it purely structural is an assumption, not a proven fact. And third, this was not the only thing scan pyramids found. Near the north face of the pyramid, behind a distinctive chevron-shaped arrangement of stones visible from the outside, the team detected a second, smaller void. And this one, they were eventually able to look inside. Using a tiny endoscope camera fed through a joint between the stones, researchers finally got a direct view into that second hidden space. What they found was a corridor, roughly 9 meters long, about 2 meters wide and 2 meters tall, sitting just behind the north face. For the first time in thousands of years, human eyes, through a camera, looked into a sealed space inside the Great Pyramid that had been closed since it was built. And critically, the purpose of that corridor is still not fully understood either. It may also be structural, relieving pressure over the pyramid's original entrance. Or it may lead somewhere. That discovery matters because it changes the odds on the big void. It proves that the pyramid still contains sealed, genuinely unknown spaces large enough to walk through, that were completely invisible to every explorer for 4,500 years until particle physics revealed them. If one hidden corridor turned out to be real and enterable, the question about the big void becomes sharper, not softer. What is inside the bigger one? And here is the frustrating part. Nobody has been inside the big void. Nobody has seen it directly. We know it is there only because of how cosmic particles pass through the stone above it. There is no confirmed opening, no corridor we can follow to reach it. And Egyptian authorities are extremely and reasonably protective of the monument. You cannot simply drill a hole into the most famous building in human history to satisfy curiosity. So the void sits there, mapped by physics, untouched by hands holding whatever it holds. This is what fuels the speculation. Some researchers believe it could contain nothing more than rubble and empty air, a construction gap, and nothing else. Others wonder whether it could hold something the ancient Egyptians deliberately hid, sealed so well that no tomb robber in 4,000 years ever found it, which would make it almost unique. The Great Pyramid was plundered in antiquity. Its known chambers were emptied long ago. But a space with no known entrance, sealed inside solid masonry, is exactly the kind of place that could, in theory, still hold something untouched. We simply do not know, and honesty requires admitting that the boring answer and the extraordinary answer are both still on the table. It is worth pausing on how many people tried and failed to find this before physics succeeded. For centuries, treasure hunters, archaeologists, and engineers probed the pyramid looking for hidden rooms. In the 9th century, workers acting for a caliph named Al-Mamun reportedly tunneled directly into the structure searching for concealed chambers and treasure, and the forced passage they cut is still used by visitors today. Generations of explorers tapped walls, measured corridors, and mapped every accessible surface. Some were convinced hidden rooms existed and spent years hunting for them. None of them found the Big Void, because it has no entrance any of them could detect, and no amount of tapping on walls reveals a chamber sealed behind dozens of feet of solid masonry. It took a technology that did not exist until the 20th century, one that relies on particles physicists only began to understand in the 1930s, to see what was hiding in plain sight the entire time. That is part of what makes this discovery unsettling rather than merely interesting. The Big Void was not in some remote, unexplored ruin. It was inside the single most visited, most photographed, most examined ancient structure on the planet, directly above chambers that millions of tourists have walked through. It was there the whole time, and we walked underneath it for thousands of years without knowing. What we can say is that the discovery rewrote something we were certain about. For over a century, the scientific consensus was that the Great Pyramid held no more major secrets, that its interior was fully known. That consensus was wrong. A building examined by thousands of experts across thousands of years was still hiding an empty space the size of a cathedral hallway, and we only found it because particles born in the collisions of cosmic rays happened to pass through stone. That should make us humble about everything else we assume we understand about this structure. If the inside of the most studied building on Earth could hide something this large for this long, what does that say about the sites we have studied far less? For now, the Big Void keeps its secret. It has no confirmed entrance. No camera has captured its interior. No modern human has stood inside it. It exists as a shape drawn by subatomic particles, a hollow space above the Grand Gallery, waiting in the dark exactly as it has waited since the reign of a pharaoh who has been dead for 45 centuries. Until someone finds a way in, without damaging the monument that has survived longer than any other human structure, the question stays open. Is it just a gap left by ancient engineers solving a problem of weight and stone? Or is it a sealed chamber that has been waiting, undisturbed, for 4,500 years for someone to finally reach it?